Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I've been sick for the last week or so, not feeling super great. My daughter was sick, so I did not get a chance to record and upload a video yesterday. So I decided that today I would do a live stream. I'll wait a few minutes for anybody who joins us before we start talking about real topics. I am also going to do my best to answer any questions anybody may have. I've never done a live stream like this before in this format, so I am hoping that this is something fun. If not, and nobody watches it, then maybe I won't do it again. But at least for today, I thought it could be fun to just chat about recovery and see what's going on. I am like super nervous. It's funny because like I talk about recovery regularly. I am in a 12-step program, so I do talk and I share. In fact, I'm speaking at a meeting later today. They have like a speaker jam where they have like a bunch of people coming to speak, and I got asked to speak there. So it definitely makes me feel good when people think I have like some type of recovery message to share, and I definitely love talking to others. I thought what could be cool about a live stream is the fact that since there is chat, it gives me the opportunity to like talk with you guys in real time. I try to do that a lot on Twitter. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, it's according to Jexy, same name as my YouTube channel. And I do have a lot of really awesome conversations with people in recovery on Twitter, but I thought this way was kind of more personal. And I know like Real Talk Recovery does live streams very regularly, and she's fantastic. There really are a lot of recovery YouTubers out there who are just really honest and open and share their experiences. And I think that that's great. As I've said in some of my other videos, I'm always a little saddened to see that once people are in recovery, they're a little bit more hesitant to speak about it publicly. You don't see a lot of people in recovery share about their experience. We always hear about like the horror addiction stories. Like those are something that we do hear a lot of now. But when people start talking about their actual recovery, it's a little bit more quiet, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. Some people, depending on their job, or maybe their family doesn't know, or they don't want their kids to be judged, and so they keep it very quiet. And let me just say, I don't judge anybody who keeps their recovery process quiet. I think that that's a personal choice, and I would never tell anybody that they should be talking publicly about their recovery. But on the flip side, I am somebody who talks publicly about my recovery. And so, because I have the ability to do that, I think it's really important that what I share is as inclusive as possible. I don't ever want anybody to feel like they can't relate just because they used a different drug or they have a different recovery program. I think that the fact of being off drugs, period, is really difficult. And the more we can share our experiences, the better we can help. I see a lot of messages regularly. I get DMs all the time where people are sharing about being, really struggling, whether it's through like normal day-to-day stuff or through like big life crisis. I think that we all have this opportunity. Hi George, I'm so excited. Yes, I'm live. How fun is that? But I think we all have different days that are harder than others, right? Like some days are great. Like for some reason I've been in this amazing good mood for the last couple of days, and it's been like way easier to just kind of get through things. Hi AJ. Yes, my son is on there too. Hello. Um I am really excited, and one of the things I love is that my children do support me. Both my kids are really supportive about not only my recovery, but about my desire to share my experience publicly with other people. I think that like I'm just like a normal person, right? Like I'm not anybody like super important or famous. I'm not, like I have a place to live. I have a car. I have, like I'm just like your normal everyday person, and yet I have this experience of being really addicted to drugs. And so many people are afraid to reach out for help because there's such a taboo. And I want to do the best I can to be able to be open and honest and just share my experience. So I figured two things. One, of course, if anybody has any questions or wants me to talk about anything in particular over this half hour, I'm going to go from 1 to 1:30. I will absolutely address anything that you ask. I also, because I'm a coffee fanatic, just made myself coffee. So hold on that. God, nothing's better than a hot cup of coffee. But I also had like a few things that came up over the week that I thought maybe I would just talk about. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is I had made a comment. I watch a lot of other recovery related videos on YouTube, and I think it was a video about like Wendy Williams or something. It was one that was like very heavily watched. And I don't even remember exactly what I responded. I probably could look it up and see. But I'm not a hateful person. I'm not a judgy person. Like I'm very like pretty open and accepting, and so I'm sure whatever I commented was not like offensive. That's kind of like my point. Like I didn't write anything that was, I think I just wrote like I'm in recovery and I can understand the struggle. Something to that effect. And somebody responded back, "Shut your mouth, you junkie." And it got me thinking about language. I responded back very nicely, like I don't think the word junkie would be something I would use to describe myself at this point in time. I have over 6 years clean, and I don't identify as a junkie. But it got me thinking about terms, right? Like when I was using drugs, like would I associate myself as a junkie? And I don't think so. Like I don't think I ever would have used that term to describe me. It's very degrading, very derogatory, but like I have in my head, maybe not out loud, looked at people and considered them junkies. Like let's be real. Like I have judged other people using, like maybe they're worse than me, maybe they're not. Now that's something in my recovery that I've come to see, like nobody's worse or better than me in recovery, right? We are totally equal regardless of what drugs we used or what our recovery programs are. Nobody's recovery is better than somebody else's, right? If you are staying off drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, then your recovery is good, right? The only way maybe you could do better in recovery is doing more things to promote your own recovery. But I don't think we can. I feel like I can compare my recovery to my recovery. Am I doing a better job in my recovery today than maybe I was doing yesterday? But I definitely don't think that I compare my recovery to anybody else's. What works for me may not work for somebody else. So, thinking about the word junkie, it got me also thinking about, when we talk about people with an alcohol problem, there's like an alcoholic, which is a same thing as me saying I'm an addict, right? Like it's a identification term that's not necessarily it can be seen negative, but it's not meant to be negative. Let's see. My positive psych professor has us doing a gratitude journal. I think that's a great idea. I think thinking about the things that we're grateful for is always good in recovery. I don't think there's anything ever negative about focusing on the things that make us feel good. Yeah, it is a good way to self-reflect. I 100% agree with that. And it also keeps us in a positive state of mind. If we're constantly focused on what's going wrong in our lives, it's if we're constantly focused on what's going wrong in our lives, then it puts us in a more negative state of mind. Where if we see the positive and we focus on gratitude, we're more likely to have a more hopeful state of mind. So it makes sense, and I think that's a good idea. When we were talking about, let's see, sorry, this is so fun to like do like reading comments and talking at the same time. Yeah, no, I agree. I think keeping a gratitude journal or any journal is a good way to check yourself each day to see where we are in our recovery. Thinking about how I'm going to move forward or what I need to do, or am I doing as good as I did yesterday? Can I do better? I think keeping a list in a journal is always a good idea, and I think that's a good suggestion for anybody. Going back to terminology for a second, I was thinking about like, an alcoholic versus saying that somebody's a drunk. Now, we use the word drunk as if you call somebody a drunk, we are using that term in a derogatory way. But when we think about what that usually means, let's see, my label of choice is recovering alcoholic. Keeps recovery central to how I think and hopefully act. Yes, I see that a lot. I think when people say like I'm an addict in recovery, I'm a recovering addict. I've heard people say like I'm a recovering addict named, and then they say their name because they feel like putting recovery first in how they introduce themselves. I'm totally like, I'm a drug addict, right? Because for myself, I'm trying to break free of those terms because we need people to be able to hear the word addict and hear the word alcoholic and not automatically associate it with use, right? Like, I'm going to be an addict for life, even if I don't use drugs ever again. Like, I'm still an addict. And so, if I tell somebody I'm an addict, I don't want them assuming that that means I'm a drug user because I'm not. Um, yeah, I think that when we keep things recovery based, we do help break some of the stigma. I think that we really need to try and get more people to openly share about what they're doing in recovery and not be so afraid. The statistics are what they are. So let's be real. Statistically, if you're in a room full of people, coworkers at the supermarket, a good percentage of the people around you are dealing with addiction. That's just fact. No, that's just the numbers. And so most people don't talk about people we know in I used to be addicted to Christianity. Well, I think we can probably be addicted to anything. I think that addiction is about not being able, whatever our substance is, it controls our lives. So if religion is controlling your life, well, then I have a feeling that comment was made in jest. But I do think that people can be addicted to anything. I think that regardless, I think that people do have a hard time like breaking free of whatever their addiction is. We've seen shopping addictions and sex addictions and whatever. It doesn't just have to be drugs. People do have a problem with a lot of other things. And I mean, look, my gosh, they have that TLC show, like My Strange Addiction. Like, some of those I don't understand. I mean, but I do think that, like, it's possible to really be addicted to anything. We know addiction is a disease and how it affects the brain, and it has a lot of other components to it. So I think the more, well, there you go, proselytize. I'll tell you this, regardless, I love good words. That's a good word. So you get 5 points for that. I love when people use good words in everyday language. I think it's fun. There's so many words in the English language that can be used, and like we use such a small percentage of them. So I love when people talk and they find a great way to throw in a good word. So high five to you for that. Um, yeah, but like I think about like how many people I knew who had drug problems who like you never hear them talk about it now. Like they don't talk about being in recovery. I've had people like I went to high school with. I have to say, I'm a Lobster is definitely bringing the comedic value. I have a feeling you have a very unique sense of humor, and I always enjoy that. So thank you for stopping by and commenting. It's definitely enjoyable. Um, I had some people from high school message me saying that they were following my channel and that they were both in recovery and they were proud of me for what I was doing and speaking out loud. And I had known that they had had issues with drugs in the past, but like I didn't realize that they were involved in recovery. And like that's kind of silly thinking about it. Like, of course, if you had a drug problem and you don't have a drug problem now, you're probably doing something for recovery. I have a someone needs to be ashamed by the end of this sense of humor. I think that is a fantastic way to describe a unique sense of humor. Keep in mind, please, that there are children, my children specifically, that are watching this live stream and reading the chat. So if we can keep the language and the connotations at a PG-13 level, that would be fantastic. It is one of the things I was considering about live streaming is I don't have the ability to censor or check things as I go. But I'm not one of those people that has millions of people who are viewing, and so I figured the chances of somebody coming here like just to cause hate or have a hard time was like pretty unlikely. So I figured it was okay. But yeah, so like I think that talking about recovery is fun, and people are always amazed. Well, I would appreciate not that kind of language. Only because, as I said, there's kids here. It's not like they haven't heard bad words. It's not a big deal. I'm sorry you feel that way about me, but I think that, hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion, and this is YouTube. So let's be real, not everybody comes on here to like love and support. So I'm totally okay. As I said, I have a recovery program today where like I try not to take things to heart. I will say this, that if I ever am doing a live stream and people are being completely inappropriate, I will have to block, because I want to make sure this is like a safe and comfortable place. I think that by keeping it, yeah, I just don't want a super whole lot of profanity. It's not that I don't use profanity, it's not that I have anything against it, but I just want to make sure that like we can talk in a way where people feel welcome. And if there's people here commenting who make people feel uncomfortable, then I'm just gonna have to block. Like, it, I know I can do it. I used to manage other people's channels, so like it's not a super big deal. This is the first time I'm doing a live stream, and usually, and maybe you guys don't know this, I will share, when big people who have like tons of followers do live streams, I'm sorry. But fun fact, people who do live streams who have like super big followings, they actually do have people on their staff on the same account who in real time like block and delete things like that. That's how they keep kid-friendly stuff kid-friendly. But yeah, but hearing from people from high school who are like, wow, or even people who are like, I didn't know you had a drug problem. Like, when I meet people now, like, I talk about the fact that I'm in recovery. It's not the first thing I tell people. I'm not like, hey, I'm Jexie, I'm in recovery, right? Like, out in the real world, I don't do that. He doesn't mean you, Lobster. He doesn't mean you. Yes, any haters. We don't need any haters. Lobster lives do matter. I'm a big believer. But no, look, we need to have a sense of humor in recovery. Recovery can be fun. It doesn't have to be this awful, like, terrible, depressing thing, right? Like, we're allowed to laugh. We're allowed to have fun. We're allowed to get to know people. To be honest, I don't have a big enough backyard for burying bodies, but I do appreciate the offer. Um, yeah, don't worry, AJ. I will definitely remove people if I have to. It's not a big deal. Look, as I said, first time live streaming instead of doing a edited video, so it's a learning curve, and we'll see whether it's worth doing again. And if not, I'm sorry if they're distracting. I will, in the future, I can take people off. So I apologize. All right, we'll get back to it. I will stop being distracted. Let's just ignore the craziness. How about that? We'll go with that plan. So when I talk to people out in the world and we're getting to know people, it does come up fairly early in the getting to know you process. Hi, Crack House Librarian. It does come up pretty early in the process that I'm in recovery. I think it is important that people know that about me early on, because it is a really big part of my identity. Also, I have found over time, can we talk about focusing on positive people who support us in life? Yes, we can absolutely do that. So it's one of the reasons with what I was saying about telling people early on that I'm in recovery. I do that because if you're not supportive of me in recovery, and you have a weird feeling about me being in recovery, then it's not a relationship that I want to spend time to like pursue. You know, like if I know that you're going to judge me for being in recovery, I'm not going to put my all into developing a relationship like that. So I think that it's really important to surround ourselves with positive people when we're in recovery, people who support us, people who want to see us do good. If I call somebody and say like, oh my gosh, I feel like I want to drink, I want those people that I call to be like, all right, what's going on? Let's talk through this, and not be like, all right, I'm picking you up and we're going to the bar. You know, we don't want to do that. I'm reading your jokes, by the way. Don't worry. I'm doing the audience a favor by ignoring those types of comments and staying focused on the topic, but I just want you to know I'm very much enjoying them. So like everybody in my life that I talk to now, well, I'm sorry to hear that I talk to now is somebody that supports my process, right? Like, I don't want to go back to a life of using. Now, there are plenty of people who can use, go out to the bar on a weekend and have a couple of drinks and be fine. That is something that people can do. It's not like every person who drinks in the world has a problem, because that's just not real. a lot of people can drink or even use drugs like on a once in a while basis. I'm not one of those people. I'm the type of person where if I put a substance in my body, like it's going to lead to bad things. That's just what happens. I don't have that off switch. I can't stop. And it's like that with any substance. It doesn't matter what it is. I want more. Like I've used to tell people before that, well, I'm grateful that you don't think my forehead's real big because I actually feel very self-conscious that I have a massive forehead. So thank you for that. Um I I have like when people talk about their drug of choice, like I would always say like my drug of choice is more or whatever you had. Specifically whatever you had and more of it. So it didn't really matter for me. There was some substances I liked better than others. I had a lot of problems with opiates and like that was really my biggest problem. Opiates because of the physical dependency part 2 was like a really really big problem for me and brought me to my downfall like really really big. Um and I'm sorry. It's so hard to talk and read comments at the same time. So nobody know ever thought me giving up booze was a bad idea. They all know I don't drink, but only those close know the details of my recovery. Yeah, I think look, when we are the type of when we're using, like I don't know about anybody else, but like people know something's up. Like I didn't like snort lines of opiates and have people be like think I was totally fine. Like you can tell. Like I see people who use now and I'm like, "Oh, I know that they're high." They may be like, "No, I'm not." But like let's be real. If we've used those substances, like we know what that looks like. It's not my job to call anybody out on it. I'm just try to be supportive, so I share where I'm at. And I never could stop. Like if I would go to the bar, like I would drink until they kicked me out. And I didn't even really like alcohol all that much. Uh I pretty much have tried almost every drug there is at some point or another, and I can say that some of the experiences were great. Um some of the experience I had were like everything's wonderful, like it was a good time and like, it's what drugs led to. It's how they made my life unmanageable and how I couldn't like I can't be a good mom if I'm using drugs. Like it just doesn't work that way. And I owe it to my kids and to my family and to my friends and to my boyfriend, right? To stay clean and to stay on a path of recovery. I work really hard in recovery and there's some days it's not always easy. I went on Twitter this morning and there was a few people who were writing about having like a really hard time and I feel like, it's really good that we have people to reach out to. Like even if you don't know anybody else like in recovery, like let's say like you're not comfortable to like go out to a program or to call somebody on the phone, like you have people like me and Real Talk Recovery and I think it's These Four Walls and if there's a bunch of other like small YouTubers who are making videos who are directly communicating with people and you can sit behind your computer. You don't even have to let people know, no, you cannot come in my room. Um, then there's also the ability for people to, like on Twitter and things like that, where you can share about what you're going through and be completely anonymous. There's a lot of people who are going through recovery, um, and they are using Twitter and other social media platforms as a way to just share what they're going through and get the support. Um, Yes, exactly. You do. You spend a lot of time like using it, then pretending like it wasn't happening. Um, what kind of recovery do I talk about? Oh, that's a great question. I talk about recovery from addiction. So my specific experience is drug use, and I have been clean for about 6.5 years now. I also feel though that the kind of stuff that I talk about in recovery in regards to recovery from addiction can really be applied to a lot of different types of recovery in the mental illness category. I think a lot of the feelings are the same. If you were looking about recovery from like a broken leg or something like that, then that would be different. AJ, you can keep asking, but it's not happening. Not yet. Maybe in the future, I will let you come on one of my live streams, but that's not happening today, so stop asking. Um, so I think that, I guess maybe, are you near Montana? No, I am not in Montana. I live in New Jersey. But I have been to recovery meetings in places all over the country. And I think that the recovery community is actually really large and really strong. I have been surprised by how many people are so, like, you tell someone you're in recovery and they are too. Um, I'm trying to find out a distinction between being hungry and my stomach pain since quitting. I'm 5.5 years from drugs, but I'm having a slight problem looking at my phone all the time. Yes, and tell agent he's not crossing his mom. Yeah, I think addiction presents itself in different ways. So, like, we can stop using drugs and then find that we have that same behavior towards something else. So, like, as Matt was saying, like, about our phones are a great way. They were programmed. If you There's videos on it on YouTube. They were programmed to be like a drug. They took A lot of these tech companies took what we know about addiction, that the studies that they've done on drug addiction, and applied it to cell phones and games. Online, most games are done in a way that trigger your brain the same way that using drugs does. So I'm in like the middle of New Jersey, like the part that looks like an armpit ish. So we see drugs, and we see that, like, okay, so like for example, they showed that like cell phones, like if they give you like rewards, like flashy things or items you can collect, that it gives you that same rush that using drugs does. They've done MRIs and studies to say that it's the same. So like people are really susceptible to the whole cell phone apps and stuff like that, because it is a problem. But when we can recognize how we stay clean off drugs or alcohol, then we can use those same tools to limit the amount of time we spend on the phone. Like, obviously, we're gonna need to use phones. We're gonna need to use them for things, but it doesn't mean that it has to be. Is it making our lives unmanageable? Are we doing things on our phone when we don't have to be? Are we ignoring people in our lives because we want to see what's happening on Facebook? Like, those are things we have to consider. So, given that we are now, I cannot believe that it has been almost a half an hour. That went by so fast. So, I'm going to start wrapping it up. I want to say first off that talking to you guys in real time was super fun and definitely something that I would consider doing again. I am I don't know, this was fun. I would hope that yep. Well, there you go. Maybe he just could be the same person changing names. I don't know. Ooh. Maybe everybody loves lobsters. But I would love to do this again sometime. I would be very interested to hear if this is something that you liked or whether you like the format of my normal videos. We'll see how it goes. But again, I apologize for not uploading a normal video yesterday. I hope that, yes, probably a lobster clan, It's probably happening. Look, people like lobsters, right? As he said before, lobster lives matter. So I hope to do this again. Maybe we can do this, I would even do this once a week if people were actually interested to hear what I have to say in real time and for this long. It seems like a long time to talk, but whatever it is that makes you guys feel like you're getting connected. There's just a lot of people in recovery out there, and I think that knowing that you're not alone, knowing that we're in this together, like, makes a difference. So thank you guys so much for watching. You're fine. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks, George. I thought it was kind of fun, and hiccups are going to happen, right? And it's part of life. Things pop up at us and we have to figure out how to do it. Thank you so much, Matt. I super, super appreciate your support. Yeah, we'll do this again, I think. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for all your support. I hope that, like, you got something from me running my mouth for a half an hour. And you can follow me on Twitter. Again, it's according to Jexy. Same thing. I'm active there, and I post twice a week on my YouTube channel. So I look forward to here. That I'll show you. It's wet. That's why it's up. So there you go. But I look forward to seeing you guys next week, and I hope you all have an awesome, awesome day.